Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. Today, the 500 Plus programme for adults with disabilities comes into effect. The programme is designed for people severely affected by social exclusion who are unable to assert their rights. Many of their guardians have commented that this kind of systemic help has been required for years.
Funds from the programme are to be allocated to over 800,000 people across the country who are unable to live without assistance.
We are aware that the new benefit of up to 500 zloty per month will not solve all problems, but it will certainly be a very valuable and very specific support and will at least partly relieve strained home budgets.
A large group of disabled people, dependent people, people who have the most difficult life situations and also are often in difficult financial situations. They will get a supplementary benefit that will allow them to cover these additional costs related to treatment, rehabilitation and care. This will allow them to live a more independent and dignified life.
Ale także pozwoli im na bardziej niezależne i godne życie.
The implementation of the Act costs about 4.5 billion zloty per year. This is a large amount of money, and I would like to underline that this money is guaranteed both until the end of this year and the next.
Te pieniądze są zapewnione.
Parents of people with disabilities are also happy with the additional help.
Dzieci są tak okrojone z wszelkich przyjemności.
These children are so stripped of pleasures. Trips to rehabilitation stays are currently funded once every 3 years, but unfortunately it is difficult to go every year because there are no funds for it, and 500 plus can be saved each month for a holiday trip, where the child has entertainment and rehabilitation, and that's very, very important to us.
Persons who are at least 18 years old and are unable to live independently may apply for this benefit. Disability must be confirmed with a medical certificate.
The state funeral of Kornel Morawiecki, the leader and founder of Fighting Solidarity, an anti-communist underground organisation from the 1980s, will take place on Saturday. The head of the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland, Michał Dworczyk, has announced that Morawiecki will be buried at the Powązki Military Cemetery in Warsaw.
Przez te najbliższe dni w sposób oczywisty pan premier będzie wyłączony.
For obvious reasons, Mr. Prime Minister will be excluded from the campaign. Now we are preparing for the funeral ceremony. It will be a state funeral because Kornel Morawiecki was a special figure in recent history. I think we will see a unification of all groups. Of course, the condolences have united many people, but I think that the funeral will be an occasion for all those whom share roots in Fighting Solidarity to meet.
Walczącej czy w ogóle opozycji demokratycznej.
Do you know when and where will the funeral take place? The decision has been made. He will be buried in Warsaw.
Miejscem spoczynku będzie Warszawa.
Tonight, the Polish Public Television will be hosting a debate between representatives of 5 election committees. The various group leaders will not participate in the debate. Many commentators believe that the debate will have little effect aside from a very small group of undecided voters.
Beside the leader of the People's Party, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, party leaders would not take part in the debate. Law and Justice is represented by Deputy Prime Minister Jacek Sasin, the Civic Coalition by Borys Budka, the Left by Andrzej Rozenek, and the Confederation by Jacek Wilk.
We decided that I will participate in this debate. I want public television viewers to have the opportunity to see that the reality is a bit different to what is portrayed on the channel TVP on a daily basis. I'm going to debate because I respect the viewers. It is a pity that they cannot get to see the true image of Poland. Is it going to change anything? This will be answered by voters soon. I know one thing. We need to respect our voters and talk to every person on every subject.
Politicians have been open about the popularity of social media, acknowledging that the debate on public television is not as important as it was 4 years ago.
Now there is no need to organize debates. As I have already said, I almost know how people will vote. Maybe those who are not certain represent a few percent, so this debate is for them, and there is a chance that they could change their mind.
According to election law, the pre-election debate must be conducted by Polish television within 2 weeks prior to the election.
It seems that this debate should be treated simply as a duty arising from the election law, and the fact that the leader of the Polish People's Party, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, is representing the party in this debate is an expression of respect for the voters.
According to journalists, the debate will not affect the election result because it has neither the leaders of the largest parties nor any extraordinary viewing figures.
The only major difference we could expect is if the party leaders themselves would participate, but I think that this particular debate will not change anything.
The debate will be shown on Channel 1 and news channel TVP Info, part of public television, because it has not been possible to reach an agreement with commercial stations. The discussion of representatives of all election committees will also be available on mother station TV Republika.
The Finnish Prime Minister Antti Rinne has met with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in an effort to convince the Hungarian Prime Minister that a reform of how EU development funds are distributed is needed. Finland, which currently holds the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union, has in recent months pushed the plans to tie access to development funds with the state of rule of law in the member states which applies for the funds. The Hungarian Prime Minister stated at a press conference that the proposed new mechanism is nothing but a dishonourable political slogan.
During Monday's press conference, Viktor Orban stated that the proposition to tie EU funds to the state of rule of law is a political slogan used to attack certain member states.
Today, this conditionality seems to be a political slogan and not a written proposal, so Hungary does not think it necessary, but will consider all proposals that are laid down in a mature way, so I have asked the Prime Minister to continue talks about it.
The Finnish Prime Minister had stated before the press conference that conditionality for EU funds was one of several issues in which member states were getting closer to a joint position.
I have emphasized today to the Prime Minister that in order to protect the use of European funds, we need a balanced and legally transparent, clear tool that will help to link the rule of law to the distribution of funds. This is in the interests of everybody.
The Hungarian Prime Minister stated that such plans would be detrimental to European unity.
I suggest we never reach the point in Europe where some leaders or bureaucrats can visit a member state to give them a hosing down about the rule of law. That will yield many things, but not European unity.
After going against EU's open doors immigration policy, the European Commission and Parliament have accused Poland and Hungary of eroding democratic principle.
Today, thousands of Dutch farmers protested against the government by clogging up major highways in the Netherlands as they headed to The Hague to demonstrate against proposed government plans to scapegoat and tax them for allegedly causing climate change.
Inspired by the French Yellow Vest movement, the farmers paralyzed highways across the country. The Road and Drivers Organization, ANWB, said more than 1,000 kilometers of roadways were snarled by the tractors, contributing to what is called the worst morning commute in Dutch history. Around 10,000 farmers are planning a protest in The Hague, home to the Dutch government, to argue they are unfairly being blamed after the court ruling found the country is violating European emission rules. Although no concrete steps against farmers have been announced, at least one political party has suggested the country reduce the number of live animals it produces, leading to an outcry from farming groups.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business, then it's the culture, the history, and finally the travel.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. A light overcast night across the country. Only around Lublin we will see some rainfalls. The temperature will range between 7 to 10 degrees. In central Poland, temperature will hover around 9 degrees. And now over to tomorrow. It will be a rainy day. More sunlight will appear over the southwest. Temperature will increase afternoon to about 15 degrees. Let's see tomorrow's forecast for the following 3 days. On Thursday, rainfalls will appear across Poland. Pressure will be still low. On Friday, weather will be very similar. The temperature will range from 12 to 14 degrees. On Saturday, heavy downpour is expected on the south. In the rest of the country, little rainfalls will appear. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition, and tonight our guest is Artur Wróblewski of Lazarski University. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Let us look a little bit closer to the Polish-American relationships. The 9th meeting with President Donald Trump, or maybe 10th or 11th, because the two gentlemen met in New York during the UN summit. Where the Poland is heading in relation with the United States?
This is the meeting number 10. So it's something unprecedented that the President of the United States is meeting so often the President of Central European country.
Mm-hmm.
We are not a superpower. We are an important member of the European Union, number 6, if we take into account the potential of Poland. So we are not even the biggest member of the European Union, but from the perspective of the Washington and international community, we look very powerful because the President of the United States is appreciating Poland and is meeting often our leaders. And of course we are cooperating on many levels. It's not only defense, and it's not only military cooperation. We are also trying to make good deals relating to energy, for example, or even 5G telecommunication, because we will be building a new generation of a telecommunication system together with the United States in this version stand alone, separately from cooperation with China, for example.
The Chinese company has majority of the patents concerning the 5G telecommunication right now, and this is the single crucial technology for the future. President Donald Trump, during this speech in UN, was very much criticizing China. Do you think that this decoupling is going on, will happen, and Poland will be on which side by that time?
There is no doubt that we are on the American side, and we are now seeing some kind of reconfiguration in geopolitical dimension, and we are supporting the United States. Even during the last speech at the United Nations, President Trump criticized very strongly China again for stealing private property and for spying on the United States, and also he for the first time criticized Chinese policy towards Hong Kong. It didn't happen before in such strong words. We know that Hong Kong will be partially autonomous and sovereign until 2047. But due to protests and some kind of policy of China, we see that democratic values are being oppressed right now before 2047. So President Trump also defended the right of Chinese people in Hong Kong to stand by democratic values. But generally, we see that President of the United States doesn't want to stop this new policy towards China. He used Trade Act and International Economic Emergency Acts, powers flowing from those important American legislation, Section 301, 232, which gives him the power to use some instruments against Chinese policy, economic policy. So I think that decoupling is true and is happening in front of our eyes. However, we have to wait till next November to see if President Trump will be re-elected, because if he is re-elected, it will mean that really Chinese have something to worry.
I have to ask you about this Ukrainian dilemma. The Vice President Biden's son was a director of a Ukrainian natural gas company. Then the Vice President of the United States allegedly pushed to fire the chief prosecutor of Ukraine, who was investigating that company. And this is not concern of American media. The American media are being concerned by Donald Trump asking President of Ukraine about that happenings.
So I think it's part of hypocrisy that we see people like Joe Biden's son, and not only Joe Biden's son, but also other people, important, prominent politicians were involved in energy sector in Ukraine. For example, President of Poland, former President of Poland, Aleksander Kwaśniewski, was also sitting on the board of management, if I remember correctly. And they were playing some kind of role in this policy of Ukraine, and President Donald Trump just wanted to take care of this case of Joe Biden's son. And everybody is criticizing President Trump that he's trying to monitor and to discover what was really his presence and his role about, and they are criticizing him. I think that in the long run, President Trump will be vindicated and is right to ask President of Ukraine, Zelensky, what really was the presence and role of Joe Biden's sons about.
Yep, 50,000 United American dollars a month. That was Mr. Hunter Biden's salary, and the question was it right? Was his involvement in that company that valuable?
That important and constructive. And also President Trump was right when he was answering questions during this brief conference with Polish president. He stressed that now the United States is sending weapons to Ukraine. Before, President Obama was sending mostly pillows. So this is a quality difference between the approach towards Ukraine and Central Europe in general of the United States before and now. We should appreciate it as Poles.
And we do. Artur Wróblewski of Lazarski University, sir, thank you very much for this conversation. And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. It will be a rainy day. More sunlight will appear over the southwest. Temperature will increase afternoon to about 15 degrees. And now let's see tomorrow's forecast for the continent. In the Balkans, temperature will range from 20 to even 30 degrees in Athens. Temperature will little fall in central Poland, and there we will see some rains. Warmer in Scandinavia, from 10 in Oslo and Stockholm to 12 in Helsinki. Still scorching in Ankara. There we will see temperature will hover around 29 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture. There are many theaters in Warsaw, but only few of them perform in English. Have you ever heard about The Cheerful Hamlets? Two of them are with me in the studio, Paulina Piórkowska and Janek Ziętara. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
But before we ask them a few questions, let's watch some of their work.
My lord, the king is dead. Long live the king. 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 Long live the king.
The Cheerful Hamlets is one of the oldest theatre in Poland performing in English. You are a new generation of a very long tradition of students keeping it alive. Do you know how it all started?
Well, I think that it all started many centuries ago when one of our current professors at the Institute of the English Studies decided that he was so funny that he wanted to be funny on stage, and he gathered a small, cheerful company to help him, and voila, that's it. And there are actually many posters in the Institute that show the previous plays, and I think the oldest reaches up to the 90s. So it's actually possible that some of us are younger than the group is alive. Of course, the plays change with each new generation. We also try to come up with some new ideas and choose a play that is maybe more modern and up to the newest standards. But I have heard that despite the fact that we only play English plays and that we try to choose only English plays, the former group of Hamlets actually perform some Polish plays. So it's interesting for us and I think inspiring for the future.
What idea stays behind the group? Because for our viewers who doesn't know what Cheerful Hamlets are, who are you and what idea stays behind you?
We are the only student theatre company in Warsaw and I think in Poland. So our main goal is to attract new students, probably from the Erasmus exchange or people from the academia, to learn more about the Anglo-Saxon culture, about the language, and of course more and more about theatre. We encourage people from all the backgrounds, but mostly from the Institute of English Studies, to join our group and to continue developing their interests in English language.
And how someone can become a Hamlet or a Cheerful Hamlet?
Well, it's very easy to become one of us. All you need to do is attend the auditions that we usually hold around November each year. There are about 20 people, I think, in our group right now. And it's not only actors. Actually, there's more people behind the stage, like scenographers, like costume designers, like hairdressers, makeup artists, graphic designers for our posters and whatnot. And there's like so many different roles that we need to fill in order to perform one play. It's just so vast, and it's amazing that only recently, actually, we have managed to fill every work site that there is to perform a play. And being an actor is not the only thing that we do. Many of us actually have to fill different roles. And one time we are an actor, but we are an actor and help with lights and help with scenography and direct the play.
Do you receive any support from the university?
Yes, we mostly receive financial support from the main campus and from the Institute of English Studies. We also developed a really fruitful relationship with the Irish Embassy in Warsaw, and we're just looking for new opportunities to promote our group.
Do you have any supervisor, someone who's leading you, a tutor, someone who teaches you how to perform on stage or work with you on text or anyhow supervise you?
Our main supervisor is Professor Klaudia Łączyńska. However, she is mostly there to coordinate our work. However, when it comes to staging the plays, directing, or developing our acting skills, we do this on our own. This year we're planning to arrange some workshops for the newcomers, for the newbies, and to integrate more by going to the National Theatre together, to the cinema, or just to arrange workshops around
Yeah, we're actually going to invite to our usual rehearsals some of the professional actors that would help us with developing our skills and managing the expressions, body movement, etc. So we try to evolve as much as possible.
Where are the next edition?
The next edition is in November. I think it's the 18th, 20th and 22nd of November. But we'll post everything on our Facebook page, and there will be posters around, so the newcomers can actually know beforehand that it's happening and have time to prepare.
It is a great punchline to say that everyone who is a student and would like to become a part of the Cheerful Camlets, go to audition in November. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Behind me, the Pałac Podlachy here in Warsaw. This is the home of Prince Józef Poniatowski. His home, the place where he had his famous parties, also the War Office. Who was Józef Poniatowski? He was in fact a major figure in Polish history. Patriot, general, Minister of War, sometime Marshal of France. Join me in this episode of Poland Daily History, where we learn more about this remarkable Polish figure. Do we have any evidence, or do we know what sort of how he might pass a typical day? I mean, what did he get up early in the morning?
He was a hard-working guy.
Yeah.
I mean, since 1808, and there was a lot of work in the ministry. You had to build up an army from scratch. In fact. So yes, there was no army in the partitioned Poland.
No, build up a ministry and build up all the administrative apparatus to make
without
it function.
without computers, everything written by hand.
But you see, we have a completely different perception, because in that time, the amount of work which governments did was very, very small. I remember reading, for example, the British Foreign Office at the time had 2 clerks writing the letters, and they could do all their work by lunchtime. And you can't imagine it. You know, you think of modern government, you think it's monolithic, and it's just extraordinary the small amount of work there actually was to do.
But the army in the Duchy of Warsaw was crucial.
Of course.
It was crucial for us and for Napoleon, because let's be honest. It's not that Napoleon loved Poles so much. They were useful, and this was actually, especially after 1809, it was the outpost of the French Empire, a loyal one, of course. But for Napoleon, the Duchy of Warsaw was mainly a training camp for a huge army. And besides, there was a lot of work in the ministry. We have to remember, because I mentioned 120, let's say, 1,000 people who marched on Moscow in 1912. But we have to remember that constantly, on a constant basis, the Polish soldiers were fighting in Spain as a contingent.
Yes, of course, because the Peninsular War as part of the...
That was the price that we have to pay. I mean, that was the price of blood.
Well, we forget that. I mean, it's not. You make a good point. We don't immediately think of that. I mean, we think. I mean, as an Englishman, I think of the Peninsular Campaign, Wellington, and all, you know, this constant retreating to and from Portugal and attacking Spain. And of course, you imagine the French. I mean, you know, in our consciousness, it's not actually clear, as it obviously should be, that there were as many Polish soldiers involved as there actually were.
In British memoirs from that time, written by infantrymen, we can often find an opinion that the Polish cavalry was even better than the French. And for example, in the Battle of Albuera in 1811, which was a decisive battle, because after that battle, the British entered for good the peninsular, because they were contained to Portugal.
That's right. Wellington would lead the troops out on campaigns and retreat behind the Thames.
Exactly. So Albuera is kind of decisive. It's a decisive battle, and in that battle. Here I'll talk about a bit private. There was a regiment of Polish cavalry, Lanciers de la Vistule, so lanciers of the Vistula, and one of the officers serving in that regiment was my great Telesfor Kostanecki.
Right.
So, in a sense, I mean, it was him, this man, Telesfor Kostanecki. Thanks to him, I discovered Napoleon and
became interested in history.
Yeah.
But I think that's one thing about history. If history becomes a sort of personal experience, and there's some link, it becomes far more relevant. I think we live in an age where so many people seem to think, well, history is boring, it's old, and it doesn't matter. And really,
it depends on who's talking.
Well, exactly. But
some people can talk about history in such a passionate way.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's all about, because it actually they are interesting stories, and people, you know, don't necessarily, for example, take contemporary culture. The series Game of Thrones is actually inspired by the British Wars of the Roses. Mm-hmm. So history is there all the time.
You just have to find sense in history,
exactly,
and then the rest follows.
And hopefully read or see people who make history interesting, because some of these are fascinating stories, and it's not just the stories themselves, but also the links that they have with individuals and which are relevant today. As in your case.
That's what I like very much. Micro-history put in a context of major history, macro history.
Exactly, and that's what really brings it to life, I think.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. The next series of episodes will take you around Warsaw, looking at what is perhaps the most captivating and surprising feature of Poland today. That is the Warsaw skyline. Warsaw has the 6th highest skyline in Europe. That's after Moscow, Paris, London, Istanbul, and Frankfurt. The Warsaw Center, under construction now, promises to be 310 meters, and at that height, the tallest skyscraper outside of Moscow in Europe. Tall buildings are nothing new for Warsaw, surprisingly enough. Not a lot of people know that the tallest skyscraper in Central Europe was in Warsaw in about 1910. That's the radio tower. And then there was the Prudential Insurance Building, now the Warsaw or the Warszawa Hotel. So Warsaw skyline has in recent years become one of the most impressive in Europe. And it's continuing to rise. The Warsaw Tower will be marginally higher at 310 meters than the Shard in London. So we are going to go from the old to the new over the next series of episodes, and we'll also take a trip around the Palace of Culture, that iconic landmark which was a present from the Soviet Union to the people of Warsaw. Actually more like an offer you couldn't refuse. So sit back and come along. We'll try to show you something constructive, entertaining, and informative. I suppose we can build on that. So it's Poland Daily, and we're looking at the Warsaw skyline. Come along. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. In this series of episodes, we're going to be going around Warsaw and looking at some of the epic numbers in its skyline. That is the most prominent buildings, because Warsaw has built its skyline from nothing in 1945 to be the 5th tallest skyline in Europe now. That's after London and Paris and Frankfurt and Moscow. Moscow being the city with the most skyscrapers in Europe. So today, and in this series of episodes, we're going to be taking you around on a beautiful sunny day and looking at some of these buildings and talking about them. I'll be joined later by Arthur Gorniewski, who will be talking with me and helping us to tell the stories of these buildings and of Warsaw's reconstruction after World War II and after 1989 in the post-communism era. So behind me right now is the first skyscraper in Warsaw. That's right, it's known as the radio building now for WNET. And this building was built in the early part of the 20th century and managed to somehow survive, not totally intact. It was hit a lot during World War II, but it's managed to survive to this day through reconstruction. Also, you'll notice at the top the symbol for the Warsaw Uprising. It's an interesting building. We'll be talking more about it in just a few seconds after this short break, so stay with us. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. I am joined by the inimitable, which is easy for me to say, Arthur Gorniewski. Here we are in beautiful, hi Arthur.
Morning.
And here we are in beautiful, morning, in beautiful downtown Warsaw. There's no city quite like it. And today we will be looking at its phenomenal and surprising skyline, including what? The tallest building in Europe.
Including all the tallest buildings in Warsaw, which are becoming
and the tallest
also,
building in Europe, which
is on the way. We also have a European highest residential building. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start from 1906, and they finished it in 1908.
Right.
When they constructed this building, it was like, look, we have a medieval castle in the city center.
Right.
Look, it's not a regular kind of building that we know today. It's very irregular one. Before World War II, there were battlements on the top, so to make it look like real medieval castle's tower.
Battlements where? On the very top?
On the very top.
Okay, so it was like a motif that they put at the very top, which was, of course, destroyed during the war. But go ahead.
Only damaged.
Only damaged. The whole building was not knocked down, but it was substantially damaged, right?
Both of them that we would like to present to our guests today are the old buildings, including Pasta. We call it Pasta because of its, we can call it a radio station. From the very beginning, Swedish company before World War I constructed it like this, and then in between World War I and World War II, that was its usage exactly. And then during Warsaw Uprising 1944, on 20th of August, our Polish troops managed to conquer this building and take over the radio station, which was not damaged by Nazi German troops. And that was one of the very few successes during World War II when it comes to Polish underground army. And that's why we can see Polish flag over there and the symbol of Polish resistance, including P letter and an anchor below. P letter standing for Poland.
Yeah, the anchor.
And
is
the anchor.
underneath, right? It's
Correct.
the motif on the top of the
Looks
building.
like W.
Symbol, yeah, it looks like W. Symbol of the Warsaw.
We want to stay in here just as a ship wants to stay in one place.
Right.
And Poland wants to stay in here, celebrating our independence next to that building and also showing it. First high, really high building in Warsaw, 51 meters.
Yeah.
We were calling it niebotyk. Niebo, sky, tyk, like touch.
Even heaven, right?
Or heaven touch.
Yeah.
So that was the first of such buildings, first in Poland, and one of the first of such solid concrete constructions in Europe, still there.
Yeah, it's one of the first in Europe too. So how many stories is it?
There
About
are
25?
There are 4 lower stores at the bottom,
Yeah.
and then 8 higher ones.
Yeah.
So as you
But
can
they're
see,
big high ceilings, so
Correct.
it's not your normal. It's about, well, it's not that tall in today's, about 10 stories, 12 stories.
12
right?
exactly.
Yeah, 12. So, but some of those are higher
Exactly.
ceilings, particularly at the bottom, right?
Yes.
But it was substantially damaged because it was the headquarters of the communications for the Home Army during the Warsaw Uprising.
But still, the concrete skeleton is original.
It stayed.
It stayed. Not even one floor collapsed, Will.
Not even one floor, despite all the fires and everything else, because it was substantially bombed, wasn't
Correct.
it? But that just shows the strength of these kinds of buildings. Perhaps they should have flown a plane into it. 9/11 jokes. So what else are we going to see today? When we go on from here, we're going to go right around the center, right?
During next series of episodes, we are going to present how Warsaw has been growing and growing till the moment when we become European highest capital next year. And
How the highest capital? What do you mean by that?
I mean having European highest skyscraper.
Europe's highest skyscraper.
Correct.
Which will be how 310
meters. So that's 51.
Yeah.
So imagine 6 of them, one
Six
on
of
each
them.
other.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what I wanted to say.
You'll be
so
able.
if you look at this, I mean, you know, we'll have the shot of the full building, and imagine 6 of those.
Exactly.
And that's how tall it's going to be, right?
And this is
Yeah.
where you will have your dinner once upon a time. Maybe I will invite you for a coffee, and we'll take a look
to
at
the top of the new building.
Exactly.
Oh, why not? Are they going to have a restaurant
On
there?
220th meter, there will be a viewing terrace with a restaurant over there. So it's highest possible dining in Europe available next year.
Wow. And what's going to be on the top?
And on the top, there are going to be antennas, Will.
It's just going to be antennas. So
Yes.
there will be communications at the very top of it. won't
Yes,
it?
but till
Yeah.
300 meter, there will be office area, so you can have your TV station, Republika Poland Daily Travel office right there.
You're going to have it there?
Why not?
I think the rent could be pretty high, but maybe we can make a deal. But the point is that it all started with the upward building in Warsaw started with this building. This building at the time was a substantial skyscraper. In 1910, it was a substantial skyscraper at the beginning of the 20th century.
Correct.
In Europe,
Exactly.
not just in Poland. That was tall for a building in Europe. And now, having had one of the first skyscrapers, Warsaw will have the tallest skyscraper. But we have to say, we have to omit Russia from this equation, because in Moscow and in St. Petersburg, they have some pretty tall buildings, don't they?
Well, they do at the moment. Well, if we calculate Russia as a part of Europe, then they have European highest buildings that are about 100 meters. When it comes to European Union, it's the Shard, which has 309.2 meters.
And so this new building in Warsaw is going to be just a little taller.
80 centimeters.
They did it on purpose. Yeah.
80 centimeters, which really matter at this point.
Why did they just build an extra floor when you're already building that much?
There you go.
Obviously they built that because they wanted to be taller than the Shard. I mean, just this small amount bigger. Okay, stay with us. We'll be back with more exciting stuff from Warsaw on a beautiful day in late summer. We're going to be going around and looking at the Warsaw skyline, or the buildings that make up that Warsaw skyline. Most of them completed within the last 10, 15 years. And if you didn't know this about Warsaw, the 5th largest, tallest skyline in Europe at this point, soon to be much taller. And there's a slate of a lot of new buildings, but we'll talk about that more. Not just the tallest building, but there are a lot of buildings that are going to be make you get taller.
Yeah, you know,
a lot of,
it's my dream.
I said tall,
since.
and you went like this. You know?
It's my dream ever since I was little, so nothing changed.
Well, to be taller. Yeah, my dream was always to be like Napoleon.
You know, half of my life I was playing basketball.
You were?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do the other half?
Swimming.
Swimming. Okay. I used to play basketball. We'll have to do some one-on-one sometime.
Okay.
What do you think?
Where's the ball?
I don't know. Let's go find it.
You know, small, heavy guy is like a tank. Call me Rosomak since that moment on.
Yeah. I have a hook shot like that. Okay,
I have a
with
hook
us.
block like that.
You have a hook block? Really? Yeah, you need a step ladder. Okay. Uh-oh.
Good one.
Stay with us. Poland Daily Travel with me and Arthur. Come on, Arthur, let's go.
Yeah. Let's go to the top floor using the stairs.